The transport shuttle's engines hummed as it docked with Kepler Station, carrying humanity's first official military delegation to a Galactic Federation joint exercise. Alex Rodriguez pressed his face against the small porthole and watched the massive space station grow larger. Its gleaming metal surface stretched for kilometers in every direction, dotted with docking bays that housed ships from dozens of different worlds. "Look at the size of that thing," whispered Tom Mitchell from the seat beside him. The sergeant's weathered hands gripped his standard-issue rifle a little tighter. "Makes you wonder what we're doing here with our old gear." Dr. Emma Walsh looked up from her tablet where she had been reviewing alien technology reports. "We're here because the Federation wants to see what humanity can contribute," she said quietly. "Don't let their fancy equipment intimidate you." The shuttle's pilot announced their arrival over the intercom. Alex stood and adjusted his tactical vest, checking that his ammunition pouches were secure. Around him, 12 other human soldiers did the same, their movements practiced and efficient. Their gear looked ancient compared to what they had seen in Federation promotional videos, but it was familiar and reliable. The airlock hissed open, and the delegation stepped onto Kepler Station's main docking platform. The artificial gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth normal, and the air carried a metallic taste that reminded Alex of old spacecraft. Waiting for them was a reception committee of alien, military officers from various Federation member species. Commander Thane of the Arctilian Defense Corps stepped forward first. His blue-tinted skin gleamed under the station's bright lights, and his forearms moved with precise military bearing. 2 of his hands rested on what appeared to be energy weapons at his belt, while the other 2 gestured in greeting. "Welcome to Kepler Station," Thane said, his voice carrying through a translation. Device clipped to his collar. "I trust your journey was comfortable." His large eyes swept over the human delegation, lingering on their equipment with barely concealed amusement. Behind Thane stood representatives from the Centauri Collective, their tall, thin bodies encased in form-fitting armor that seemed to shift colors in the light. Their weapons were sleek cylinders that hummed with barely contained energy. Next to them, the Rigel Defense Force officers wore bulky powered armor that made soft mechanical sounds as they moved. "Thank you for hosting us," Dr. Walsh replied diplomatically. "We're honored to participate in this joint exercise." One of the Centauri officers leaned toward his companion and spoke in a language the translation devices didn't pick up. Whatever he said caused several aliens to make sounds that might have been laughter. Alex felt his jaw tighten but kept his expression neutral. Thane gestured toward the human's equipment with one of his 4 hands. "I see you've brought your traditional weapons. How quaint. I'm sure our technicians would be happy to provide you with standard Federation equipment for the exercise." "That's very kind of you," Dr. Walsh said smoothly, "but we prefer to use gear we're familiar with. It reduces the chance of accidents during training." Another ripple of what sounded like amusement passed through the alien delegation. A Rigel officer's powered armor amplified his voice as he spoke. "With respect, Dr. Walsh, those projectile weapons of yours haven't been used in serious military applications for centuries on most worlds. Are you certain they'll be adequate for the exercise scenarios?" Lisa Chun, one of the younger human soldiers, shifted her weight, and Alex could tell she wanted to say something. He gave her a slight shake of his head. This wasn't the time for wounded pride. "We appreciate your concern," Alex said, stepping forward, "but we're confident in our equipment's capabilities. Perhaps the exercise will demonstrate the effectiveness of different approaches to military technology." Thane's translator made a sound that might have been a chuckle. "Indeed, I'm sure it will be quite educational for everyone involved." The tour of the station's facilities continued for the next hour. The aliens proudly displayed their advanced training facilities, complete with holographic projectors, neural interface chambers, and environmental simulators that could recreate any planetary conditions. Their weapons ranges accommodated energy weapons of every type, from handheld plasma rifles to vehicle-mounted particle cannons. "Our neural link communication system allows for perfect coordination between all units," explained a Centauri technician as they passed through the command center. Response times are measured in milliseconds, and tactical information is shared instantaneously across the entire force. The humans nodded politely while examining the alien technology. Alex noticed that everything seemed to rely on complex power systems and quantum processors. There were very few manual controls or backup systems visible anywhere. "What happens if the neural links are disrupted?" Tom asked innocently. "Disrupted?" The Centauri looked puzzled. "The quantum encryption makes interference virtually impossible. Besides, what could possibly disrupt a properly shielded neural network?" Emma Walsh and Alex exchanged glances. Both had read the intelligence reports about alien military engagements. Several species had suffered devastating defeats when their communication systems failed, leaving their forces blind and unable to coordinate. The weapons demonstration came next. Aliens showed off plasma rifles that could punch through reinforced bulkheads, energy shields that deflected projectiles, and targeting systems that could lock onto fast-moving objects from incredible distances. The technology was undeniably impressive. "Now then," Thane said as the demonstration concluded, "would you care to show us your equipment?" Alex nodded and unslung his rifle. It was a simple design using chemical propulsion to fire metal projectiles. The firing mechanism was entirely mechanical, with no electronic components except for an optional scope. He demonstrated the weapon's operation, explaining how it functioned in any environment and required no external power source. The aliens watched with the polite attention usually reserved for museum exhibits. When Alex finished, Thane made what sounded like an approving noise. "Fascinating. Such elegance in its simplicity. I'm sure it was quite effective in your planet's early conflicts." The condescension in his tone was unmistakable despite the translator's neutral delivery. The human delegation was assigned quarters in a section of the station designated for primitive technology users. The corridor they walked down was lined with information displays showing the military history of various pre-space civilizations. Alex couldn't help but notice that most of the exhibits focused on the quaint nature of early warfare. "They think we're living relics?" Lisa Chun muttered, as they unpacked their gear. "Let them think what they want," Dr. Walsh replied quietly. "Tomorrow's exercise will speak for itself." That evening, Alex stood in the observation lounge, looking out at the stars beyond Kepler Station. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see alien patrol ships moving in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with energy shields and sensor arrays. Everything about them screamed advanced technology and military precision. Tom Mitchell joined him at the window. "Think we're making a mistake bringing our old gear to this party?" Alex considered the question carefully. Maybe they're making a mistake thinking their fancy equipment makes them invincible. The exercise starts in 12 hours. Emma Walsh said, approaching from behind. "Whatever happens, we represent humanity out here. Let's make sure we do it justice." Alex nodded and checked his rifle one more time. The metal was cold and solid in his hands, a reassuring weight that had served humanity well for centuries. Tomorrow would determine whether simple reliability could compete with advanced technology among the stars. Dawn came artificially to Kepler Station as the lighting systems brightened to simulate morning. The massive training chamber known as Simulation Bay 7 stretched before the assembled forces like a metal canyon waiting to be filled with whatever environment the computers decided to create. Alex Rodriguez stood with his team of humans while alien soldiers made final checks on their advanced equipment. The bay's walls suddenly shimmered and transformed into dense jungle terrain complete with towering trees, thick undergrowth, and oppressive humidity that immediately fogged up several alien visors. The environmental systems had recreated a perfect replica of a contested world on the Federation's frontier, complete with the sounds of alien wildlife and the thick smell of rotting vegetation. "Phase 1 objectives are simple," announced the exercise coordinator through speakers hidden throughout the artificial jungle. "Locate and secure 3 supply caches while defending against automated opposition forces. Duration is 4 hours. Begin." Commander Thane raised his plasma rifle and activated his energy shield with practiced efficiency. The weapon's barrel glowed with contained energy while a faint blue field surrounded his body. Around him, other Arctilian soldiers did the same, their equipment humming with power. They moved into the jungle like ghosts, their advanced gear automatically adjusting to the environment. The Centauri forces activated their neural link communications and spread out in perfect coordination. Their movements were synchronized to the millisecond as quantum processors calculated optimal positioning and tactical responses. Their energy weapons charged with high-pitched whines that seemed to make the artificial birds fall silent. Alex checked his compass, a simple magnetic device that had been guiding human soldiers for centuries. His rifle felt familiar in his hands as he led his team into the undergrowth using hand signals and whispered commands. Their radio communications crackled with static but remained clear enough for coordination. 30 minutes into the exercise, the first problems began appearing. Thane noticed his plasma rifle's energy indicator dropping faster than expected. The weapon's cooling system, designed for standard atmospheric conditions, struggled with the jungle's thick, humid air. Each shot generated more heat than the system could efficiently dissipate. Cooling efficiency down to 60%, he reported to his squad. We may need to pace our fire rate. Similar reports came from other Arctilian units. Their energy shields flickered as power cells worked harder to maintain protective fields in the dense atmosphere. What should have been 4 hours of operation time was rapidly becoming 2 hours at best. The Centauri forces faced different challenges. Their sophisticated targeting systems, calibrated for open terrain, struggled with the jungle's visual interference. Thick vines and overlapping leaves confused their sensors, causing weapons to lock onto shadows and empty air instead of actual targets. Neural link efficiency is degrading, reported one of the Centauri squad leaders. Environmental interference is affecting quantum coherence. The Rigel Defense Force, encased in their powered armor, discovered that their bulky suits caught on branches and vines with every step. Servo motors whined in protest as they forced their way through vegetation, draining power reserves faster than anticipated. Several soldiers found their armor's environmental seals compromised by thorns and sharp leaves. Meanwhile, Alex's team moved through the jungle with steady progress. Their simple gear adapted naturally to the environment. When Tom Mitchell's rifle scope fogged up, he wiped it clean with a cloth and continued without missing a beat. When Lisa Chun's radio developed static, she adjusted the frequency manually and restored clear communication. The first supply cache was located by a mixed Arctilian human patrol. As they approached the target, automated defense drones emerged from hidden positions in the trees. The sleek machines moved with mechanical precision, their sensors scanning for threats. Thane raised his plasma rifle and fired the first shot. Connected, but the weapon's barrel immediately began flashing warning lights. Overheating, he muttered, watching the cooling indicator climb into the red zone. He had to lower his weapon and wait for the systems to cycle. The defense drones responded by focusing their attention on the most obvious threats. Their programming identified energy weapons and active shields as primary targets, directing concentrated fire at the alien soldiers. Plasma bolts and energy beams filled the air as the automated systems engaged Federation technology with mechanical efficiency. Alex took a different approach. His rifle cracked repeatedly as he fired simple metal bullets at the drones. The projectiles had no energy signature to track and no sophisticated guidance systems to confuse. They simply followed ballistic trajectories and punched holes in drone armor with kinetic energy that had been devastating targets for millennia. Drone down, Tom Mitchell called out as his rifle brought down another automated defender. The machines seemed confused by the humans' low-tech approach, their sensors struggling to prioritize targets that generated no energy emissions. As the first hour concluded, reports began flooding the command center. Alien equipment failure rates were climbing rapidly, energy weapons overheated. Shields flickered and failed. Communication systems suffered interference that the designers had never anticipated. Dr. Emma Walsh, monitoring from the observation deck, made notes on her tablet. The jungle environment is revealing design flaws, she murmured to herself. Their technology works perfectly in laboratory conditions, but struggles with real-world variables. The exercise coordinator introduced the next challenge, electronic warfare. Hidden transmitters throughout the jungle began broadcasting interference, signals designed to disrupt military communications. It was a realistic scenario that reflected actual battlefield conditions. Where enemies would attempt to jam Federation forces, the effect on alien forces was immediate and devastating. Centauri neural link networks collapsed as quantum channels. Overloaded with competing signals, soldiers who had moved in perfect coordination suddenly found themselves isolated and confused. Years of training that relied on shared tactical awareness became useless in seconds. "I've lost contact with Squad 2, reported a Centauri officer, his voice tight with concern. Neuralink is completely down. Arctilian communication systems fared little better. Their advanced digital radios, which relied on frequency hopping and quantum encryption, found themselves unable to establish stable connections through the interference. Squad leaders shouted orders that couldn't be heard over the jamming signals. The Rigel-powered armor units faced the worst problems. Their suits relied entirely on network systems for everything from navigation to life support monitoring. When the electronic warfare began, several soldiers found their armor locked in place as confused processors tried to reboot critical systems. Alex pressed the transmit button on his simple radio and spoke clearly into the microphone. "All human units report status." The responses came back through static but remained understandable. Squad 2, all operational. Squad 3, proceeding to objective. Squad 4, engaging hostiles. The basic radio technology that aliens considered primitive cut through interference that crippled their advanced systems. Frequency modulation and simple analog signals proved immune to jamming designed to disrupt digital communications. By the second hour, the exercise had become a rescue operation. Human soldiers found themselves guiding confused alien units through the jungle, providing communication relays and tactical coordination when advanced systems failed. Alex discovered Commander Thane sitting beside a tree, his plasma rifle completely inoperative and his energy shield flickering weakly. "Thermal management failure," Thane explained with obvious frustration. "The weapon's cooling system can't handle this environment." Alex nodded sympathetically and handed the alien commander his backup sidearm, a simple chemical propellant pistol. "It's not fancy, but it works." Thane examined the primitive weapon with new respect. Its mechanical action required no power source and generated no heat signature. The ammunition was basic metal projectiles that would function regardless of atmospheric conditions or electronic interference. The alien forces began to realize that their technological superiority meant nothing when that technology failed to function. As the exercise continued, they watched human soldiers accomplish objectives with gear that looked like museum pieces, but worked with mechanical reliability that their advanced systems couldn't match. "Lisa." Chun's voice crackled over the radio with quiet satisfaction. "Cache 2 secured. No equipment failures to report." The scoreboard in the command center told the story in stark numbers. Human units maintained full operational capability while alien forces struggled with cascade equipment failures that left entire squads combat ineffective. "Fascinating," Dr. Walsh murmured as she observed the unfolding exercise. "They built systems optimized for perfect conditions and forgot that war never provides perfect conditions." The third hour of the exercise brought an escalation that caught everyone off guard. The automated training system, programmed to adapt to participant performance, began deploying more sophisticated opposition forces. Advanced combat drones emerged from hidden bunkers throughout the artificial jungle, their sensors actively hunting for Federation forces with ruthless efficiency. "Lisa." Chun crouched behind a fallen log and watched one of the new drones hovering 30 meters away. The machine was larger than the earlier Defenders, with multiple weapon systems and armor plating that gleamed with energy-resistant coatings. Its sensors swept the area methodically, searching for targets with mechanical patience, The drone's detection systems were designed to identify the energy signatures of standard Federation military equipment. They could spot a charging plasma rifle from kilometers away and track energy shield emissions through dense cover. Against alien forces, they were devastatingly effective against humans carrying mechanical weapons that generated no energy signature. The drone seemed almost blind. Lisa aimed her rifle carefully and squeezed the trigger. The bullet struck the drone's main sensor cluster with a sharp crack, sending sparks flying as delicate electronics shattered. The machine spun wildly before crashing into a tree, its advanced systems reduced to expensive scrap metal by a simple projectile across the jungle. Tom Mitchell faced a different challenge. A group of Centauri soldiers had become separated when their neural link failed, leaving them wandering in circles without the shared awareness they depended on. Worse, their sophisticated energy weapons had attracted a swarm of smaller attack drones that harassed them with coordinated strikes. Tom approached the confused aliens with his hands visible, speaking calmly into his radio so they could hear him through their translation systems. "This is Sergeant Mitchell. I can get you back to your unit if you follow my lead." One of the Centauri officers looked at Tom with obvious skepticism. "Your primitive communication methods cannot provide the tactical coordination we require." "Maybe not," Tom agreed, "but they work when yours don't." He led the aliens through the jungle using basic infantry tactics that had guided human soldiers for centuries. Hand signals indicated direction and danger. Whispered commands coordinated movement. Simple visual observation replaced failed sensor networks. When attack drones appeared, Tom demonstrated the versatility of human equipment. His combat knife, a simple steel blade, proved remarkably effective at disabling drone sensors when thrown with accuracy. The aliens watched in amazement as he retrieved the blade and repeated the technique on another target. "Your weapon requires no power source," observed one of the Centauri soldiers. "It cannot be jammed or overloaded." "That's the idea," Tom replied, wiping the blade clean. "Sometimes the old ways work best." Meanwhile, Alex Rodriguez found himself coordinating a rescue operation for a Rigel Defense Force unit whose powered armor had suffered complete system failures. The massive suits had become prisons for their occupants when electronic warfare scrambled their control systems. "Emergency manual release," Alex called out, examining the armor's external controls. The Rigel soldiers had been trained to rely entirely on their suits' automated systems and had no idea how to escape when those systems failed. Alex located the mechanical backup latches that the armor designers had included as a last resort. With Tom's help, they began manually opening the suits and extracting the trapped soldiers. The Rigel troops emerged looking vulnerable and confused without their technological shells. "How did you know about the manual releases?" asked one of the freed soldiers. "Basic design principle," Alex explained. "Always have a mechanical backup for electronic systems. Your engineers were smart enough to include them, even if nobody told you they existed." The exercise coordinator's voice echoed through the jungle, announcing the next phase. "All units prepare for base assault scenario. Primary objective is the communications facility at grid reference 77 Alpha." The facility materialized through the chamber's holographic systems, a fortified structure surrounded by defensive barriers and automated weapons. Intelligence briefings had described it as heavily defended by systems designed to counter Federation military technology. Commander Thane, now carrying one of Alex's spare sidearms, studied the target through binoculars. His plasma rifle sat useless across his back, its cooling system permanently damaged by the jungle environment. Around him, the surviving alien forces prepared for the assault with equipment that barely functioned. "How do you propose we approach?" Thane asked Alex. "Our energy shields are failing, our weapons are overheating, and our communications are compromised." Alex examined the target through his own binoculars, simple optical devices that required no power and couldn't be jammed. "We do it the way humans have been taking fortified positions for thousands of years. Careful planning, coordinated movement, and adaptable tactics." The plan Alex proposed was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of relying on technological superiority, the combined force would use terrain, timing, and misdirection. Human soldiers would provide communication relays using their basic radios. Alien forces would contribute their remaining firepower, while learning to fight without their failed technological advantages. Dr. Emma Walsh watched from the command center as the assault began. The mixed force moved with a coordination that surprised everyone, including the aliens themselves. Without neural links to rely on, they rediscovered the value of clearable communication and visual signals. Lisa Chun demonstrated another advantage of human equipment when her squad encountered a heavily armored barrier that energy weapons couldn't penetrate. While alien forces searched for alternative approaches, Lisa produced a small explosive charge from her equipment pack. Chemical explosives, she explained to the curious aliens. No electronics to jam, no power source to fail. Just basic chemistry that's worked since humans discovered gunpowder. The explosion breached the barrier with satisfying efficiency, opening a path that sophisticated energy weapons had been unable to create. The aliens looked at the simple device with new understanding. As the assault continued, human ingenuity found solutions to problems that had stopped the alien forces completely. When automated defenses proved immune to energy weapons, Tom Mitchell used a length of wire from his communications kit to short-circuit their power systems. When sensor networks detected approaching forces, Alex's team disabled them with precisely thrown rocks that shattered delicate equipment. The most impressive demonstration came when the facility's main defense system activated, a sophisticated energy barrier designed to deflect plasma bolts and particle beams. The aliens stared at the shimmering wall of force in frustration, their weapons useless against the advanced shielding. Lisa Chun studied the barrier for several minutes before pulling out a simple tool that made several aliens gasp in recognition. It was a crowbar, a basic lever that humans had used for construction and demolition work for millennia. Energy barriers work by deflecting directed energy, she explained to the watching aliens. But they're not designed to handle simple mechanical force applied at structural weak points. She wedged the crowbar against the barrier's generator housing and applied steady pressure. The device, designed to resist high-tech attacks, had no defense against basic mechanical leverage. With a shower of sparks, the generator failed and the energy barrier collapsed. "Remarkable," breathed one of the Centauri officers. "Such elegance in its directness." The communications facility fell within minutes once the barrier was down. Human soldiers led mixed teams through corridors using tactics that required no technology beyond basic observation and communication. When they encountered final defensive systems, simple solutions proved more effective than complex ones. Commander Thane found himself following Alex's tactical leadership for the first time in his military career. The humans' approach was methodical and flexible, adapting to each situation with tools and techniques that worked regardless of technological interference. "Your methods are crude but effective," Thane observed as they secured the facility's main communications array. "Sometimes crude is exactly what you need," Alex replied. "Fancy technology is wonderful when it works, but mechanical systems keep working when everything else fails." As the third phase concluded, the exercise scoreboard told a story that shocked the alien observers. Human forces had not only maintained full operational capability throughout the scenario, but had emerged as the primary contributors to mission success. Their primitive equipment had outperformed advanced alien technology in every meaningful category. Dr. Walsh made notes on her tablet as she watched alien military officials discussing the results with obvious concern. The exercise was supposed to demonstrate Federation technological superiority, but instead it was revealing fundamental flaws in their approach to military equipment design. "Phase 4 begins in 30 minutes, announced the exercise coordinator. "All units prepare for final assault scenarios with enhanced opposition forces." Alex checked his rifle and smiled grimly. The next phase would be the real test of whether human military philosophy could compete with alien technology when everything was on the line. Around him, alien soldiers examined their failed equipment. With new appreciation for the simple reliability of human gear, the lesson was becoming clear to everyone involved. Advanced technology meant nothing if it couldn't function when needed most. And sometimes the most primitive solution was also the most effective one. The training chamber transformed one final time as the exercise entered its most challenging phase. The jungle environment dissolved into a sprawling urban battlefield, complete with damaged buildings, debris-filled streets, and the acrid smell of smoke. This was the scenario that would determine which military philosophy truly deserved respect among the stars. Alex Rodriguez stood atop a ruined building and surveyed the cityscape through his binoculars. Somewhere in this maze of concrete and steel waited the final objective, a heavily defended command center that controlled the entire training facility. Getting there would require everything the mixed human-alien force had learned about working together. The exercise coordinator's voice crackled through speakers hidden throughout the urban environment. Final phase parameters. Complete system. Failure scenario. All electronic communications are now jammed. All energy-based weapons are subject to random overload. All advanced targeting systems are offline. Navigate to the central command facility and secure the primary objective. Commander Thane felt his translation device go silent as the jamming began. Around him, alien soldiers watched their sophisticated equipment shut down one system at a time. Energy weapons that had defined their military doctrine for centuries became useless weights. Communication networks that enabled perfect coordination collapsed into static. The Centauri forces faced the most severe challenges. Their entire military structure depended on neural link communication for coordination. Without quantum channels to share tactical information, individual soldiers found themselves mentally isolated for the first time in their careers. Years of training became irrelevant when the technology that enabled it stopped working. A Centauri SQUAD leader approached Alex with obvious desperation in his movements. Without translation software, communication became a challenge of gestures and basic words that both species might understand. The alien pointed at his failed equipment and made frustrated sounds that needed no translation. Alex nodded and gathered his human team around him. "We're going to have to do this the old way," he announced. "Hand signals, visual coordination, and basic tactics. Tom, you take point with the Arctilian units. Lisa, coordinate with the Centauri forces. I'll handle overall tactical command." The approach to the command center began with methodical urban warfare, techniques that human armies had perfected through centuries of city fighting. Alex led the combined force through streets using cover and concealment, communicating through hand signals that transcended language barriers. When the first automated defenses opened fire, the difference between human and alien approaches became dramatically clear. The defense systems had been programmed to detect and engage advanced military technology, making them devastatingly effective against Federation forces under normal circumstances. But these weren't normal circumstances. Tom Mitchell's rifle cracked repeatedly as he engaged automated gun turrets that couldn't effectively track his low-signature weapon. The turret's sensors, designed to lock onto energy weapons and powered armor, struggled to identify threats that generated no electronic emissions. Lisa Chim demonstrated the versatility of human equipment when faced with a barrier that blocked the unit's advance. While alien soldiers searched for technological solutions to overcome the obstacle, Lisa pulled out a simple rope and grappling hook from her pack. "Basic climbing gear," she explained through gestures to the watching aliens. "No power source, no electronics, no complex systems to fail." She threw the hook over the barrier and scaled it with practiced efficiency. Once at the top, she lowered the rope for others to follow. The aliens climbed awkwardly, their training having never included such primitive techniques. But they learned quickly when survival depended on it. The most impressive display of human adaptability came when the force encountered a heavily armored automated tank that blocked their route to the objective. The machine's armor was designed to deflect energy weapons and particle beams, making it virtually invulnerable to standard Federation military technology. Axe studied the tank for several minutes, while alien soldiers waited helplessly with their failed weapons. Then he reached into his equipment pack and produced several items that made the aliens stare in confusion. Empty bottles, cloth strips, and a small container of flammable liquid. Molotov cocktails, he explained to Tom while assembling the improvised weapons. 19th century technology that still works in the 25th century. The bottles shattered against the tank's hull, spreading burning liquid across its surface. The flames found their way into air intake vents and cooling systems, causing the sophisticated machine to shut down as its internal temperature rose beyond safe parameters. Advanced armor and targeting systems meant nothing when basic fire overwhelmed the vehicle's life support systems. Commander Thane watched the tank burn with something approaching awe. His forearms moved in what Alex recognized as a gesture of respect among Arctilian military personnel. The alien commander had spent decades learning to operate plasma weapons and energy shields, but a human had just disabled an armored vehicle using materials that could be found in any primitive settlement. As the combined force advanced deeper into the urban battlefield, human leadership became increasingly apparent. When alien forces became separated and confused without their communication networks, human soldiers provided coordination through simple voice commands and visual signals that worked regardless of technological interference, the Rigel defense. Force soldiers, freed from their failed powered armor, discovered muscles they had forgotten they possessed. Years of relying on mechanical assistance had left them physically weak, but following human soldiers through urban terrain began rebuilding. Strength they hadn't used since basic training. Dr. Emma Walsh observed the exercise from the command center with growing satisfaction. The alien military officials around her had stopped making condescending comments about human primitiveness. Instead, they watched the tactical displays with respectful attention as human forces consistently outperformed their sophisticated allies. Notice how they adapt their tactics to each situation, she pointed out to a Centauri general. When technology fails, they fall back on fundamental principles that work regardless of circumstances. The final approach to the command center required crossing an open plaza covered by multiple automated weapon systems. The defense network was a masterpiece of technological integration, with overlapping fields of fire and sensors that could detect anything more advanced than a throwing rock. Alex gathered the surviving force around him and used a piece of charcoal to draw a tactical diagram on a concrete wall. Without computers or holographic displays, he relied on the same method human generals had used for millennia to communicate battle plans. The assault began with diversionary tactics that confused the automated defenses, while sophisticated sensors tracked obvious threats. Human soldiers moved through blind spots using techniques older than spaceflight. They crawled through drainage tunnels, climbed building exteriors, and used smoke to conceal their movements. When the automated defenses finally detected the infiltration, it was too late. Lisa Chun had reached the control facility and began shutting down systems with nothing more sophisticated than a crowbar applied to power junction boxes. Simple mechanical force proved more effective than electronic warfare at disabling advanced technology. The command center's doors opened to reveal the final challenge. A room full of computer terminals and holographic displays that required interaction to complete the exercise objectives. Everything was electronic, designed for alien technology that no longer functioned. Tom Mitchell solved the problem with characteristic human directness. He examined the main computer terminal for several minutes before locating its manual override. Switches, mechanical controls that had been included as emergency backups but never mentioned in standard training. Every system has a manual backup, he explained to the amazed aliens as he operated purely mechanical controls to complete the exercise objectives. The designers just assume nobody will ever need to use them. As the final phase concluded and the training chamber returned to its normal metallic walls, the results spoke for themselves. Human forces had not only completed all objectives, but had done so while carrying much of the alien force that would have failed without human assistance. Commander Thane approached Alex as the debriefing began, moving with the careful respect reserved for worthy opponents. His translator had been restored, allowing him to speak clearly for the first time in hours. "I owe you an apology," Thane said formally. I underestimated both your equipment and your tactical doctrine. You're primitive. Methods proved superior to our advanced technology when it mattered most. Alex shook the alien commander's hand with genuine warmth. Technology is just a tool. The real advantage comes from soldiers who can adapt when their tools fail. The scoreboard in the command center displayed final statistics that would be discussed in Federation military academies for years to come. Human forces had maintained 100% operational capability throughout scenarios that left alien units with less than 30% effectiveness. More importantly, the mixed units that fought alongside humans had performed significantly better than pure alien forces, suggesting that human tactical doctrine could improve Federation military effectiveness even when sophisticated technology was available. Dr. Walsh smiled as she watched alien military officials taking notes on human equipment and tactics. The exercise had accomplished something no diplomatic negotiation could achieve. It had earned humanity genuine respect through demonstrated competence under pressure. Phase 4 complete, announced the exercise coordinator. All units report to debriefing stations for assessment and evaluation. As the mixed force filed out of the training chamber, Alex noticed that alien soldiers were examining human equipment with new interest. Several asked to test the weight and balance of human rifles, while others inquired about the availability of manual backup systems for their own gear. The lesson had been learned through trial by fire, sometimes the most advanced military. Technology was the kind that worked when everything else failed. 3 days after the exercise concluded, Alex Rodriguez found himself standing before the Galactic Federation Military Council in their imposing assembly chamber aboard Kepler Station. The circular room rose in tiers around a central speaking platform, with representatives from dozens of worlds occupying seats that accommodated various alien PHYS IOO GIES. Dr. Emma Walsh sat in the human delegation section, her tablet displaying the comprehensive after-action report that had shocked military analysts throughout Federation space. The statistics told a story that challenged fundamental assumptions about modern warfare and technological superiority. Fleet Admiral Korvac of the Vegan Defense Authority called the session to order with a voice that carried across the chamber without amplification. His species had evolved natural acoustic abilities that made translation devices seem primitive by comparison, yet even he had been humbled by the exercise results. This assembly convenes to review the findings of joint exercise Kepler 7, Korvac announced. The performance data collected during this training evolution has raised significant questions about current Federation military doctrine and equipment standards. Commander Thane stood from his position in the Arctilian section, his 4 arms moving in a gesture that requested permission to speak. Admiral, I led Arctilian forces during the exercise and witnessed human military capabilities firsthand. Their performance exceeded all expectations and revealed critical flaws in our technological approach to warfare. A ripple of conversation spread through the chamber as alien representatives discussed Thane's statement. Many had read the preliminary reports, but hearing confirmation from a respected field commander carried additional weight. The data speaks for itself, announced General Hyrak of the Centauri Collective, activating a holographic display that filled the chamber's center. Human forces maintained 100% operational capability throughout scenarios that reduced our effectiveness to less than 30%. The hologram showed detailed breakdowns of equipment failure rates, mission completion statistics, and tactical effectiveness measurements. Every category told the same story. Human military doctrine had outperformed alien technology when conditions became challenging. But how is this possible? Asked a representative from the Rigel Defense Force. Our weapons are more powerful, our armor more protective, and our communication systems more sophisticated than anything these humans possess. Dr. Walsh rose from her seat and activated her own presentation system. The answer lies in fundamental design philosophy, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation network. Human military equipment prioritizes reliability over sophistication, redundancy over efficiency, and adaptability over specialization. The display showed comparative analyses of human and alien equipment designs, while alien weapons featured advanced energy systems and quantum processors. Human gear relied on mechanical principles that had guided military technology for centuries. Consider a simple example, Walsh continued. An Artillery plasma rifle contains approximately 15,000 individual components, each dependent on perfect operating conditions and precise calibration. A human rifle contains fewer than 200 parts, most of which will continue functioning even when damaged or contaminated. Alex stepped forward to address the assembly directly. During the exercise, alien forces suffered cascade failures when individual systems malfunctioned. Human equipment continued operating because each component was designed to function independently of all others. To demonstrate his point, Alex drew his sidearm and field stripped it completely, laying each part on the speaking platform. This weapon can be disassembled, cleaned, and reassembled by any soldier using only basic tools. It requires no external power source, generates no detectable energy signature, and will function in any atmospheric condition. He reassembled the weapon with practiced efficiency while continuing his explanation. More importantly, if any single component fails, the weapon can still be operated manually. There are no electronic systems to jam, no quantum processors to overload, and no neural interfaces to disrupt. The alien representatives watched with growing understanding as Alex demonstrated the weapon's mechanical action. Every movement was visible and comprehensible, unlike their own equipment that relied on hidden electronic processes. The humans also demonstrated superior tactical adaptability, added Commander Thane. When our communication networks failed, they continued coordinating through voice commands and visual signals. When our weapons overheated, they improvised solutions using materials available in the field. General Hyrak activated another display showing tactical footage from the exercise. The recordings showed human soldiers using everything from climbing rope to improvised explosives, adapting their approach to each situation with creativity that alien training had never emphasized. Notice how they modify their tactics based on immediate circumstances, Hyrak observed. Our forces follow predetermined protocols optimized for specific scenarios. When those scenarios change, our response becomes less effective. A vegan military analyst stood to present his findings. The data suggests that Federation forces have become dependent on technological superiority to the point where we've forgotten fundamental military principles. When that technology fails, our effectiveness drops dramatically. The presentation continued with detailed analysis of communication failures, equipment malfunctions, and tactical confusion that had plagued alien forces throughout the exercise. Every system that aliens considered an advantage had become a liability when subjected to realistic battlefield conditions. The humans call it the KISS principle, Dr. Walsh explained. Keep it simple, stupid. Their military equipment follows this doctrine religiously, which makes it more reliable than our sophisticated alternatives. Fleet Admiral Korvac leaned forward in his elevated seat. Are you suggesting that we abandon centuries of technological advancement and return to primitive weapons? Not abandon, Alex replied carefully, but supplement. Advanced technology should enhance basic capabilities, not replace them entirely. Every sophisticated system should have mechanical backups. Every complex weapon should be supported by simple alternatives. To illustrate the point, Tom Mitchell stepped forward carrying examples of human equipment. He demonstrated how a simple compass worked alongside electronic navigation systems, how manual controls backed up automated functions, and how basic tools could accomplish tasks that required specialized technology. The key is redundancy, Tom explained. If one system fails, another takes its place. If advanced equipment breaks down, basic equipment continues the mission. The chamber fell silent as alien representatives contemplated the implications. Their entire military structure was built around technological superiority, but the exercise had proven that sophistication meant nothing when systems failed under pressure. There's another factor to consider, Lisa Shun added, joining the presentation. Human soldiers train to operate independently when communications fail. We learn basic skills that work without technology, then add advanced capabilities on top of that foundation. She demonstrated field communication using hand signals, basic first aid techniques that required no medical equipment, and navigation methods that worked without satellites or quantum positioning systems. Your forces train to use technology, she continued. Our forces train to accomplish missions with or without technology. That's why we maintained effectiveness when systems failed. The implications became clear as alien military officials recognized the fundamental weakness in their approach. They had created forces dependent on perfect technology rather than adaptable soldiers who could function when technology failed. The exercise revealed something else, Commander Thane added thoughtfully. Mixed units that included human soldiers performed better than pure alien forces, even when our technology was functioning normally. Human tactical doctrine improved our overall effectiveness. General Hyrak nodded in agreement. The data confirms this observation. Units that adopted human communication methods and tactical flexibility showed improved performance metrics across all categories. Fleet Admiral Korvac stood to address the assembly with obvious gravity. The implications of these findings extend beyond a single training exercise. If human military doctrine proves superior under realistic conditions, we must consider fundamental changes to Federation military policy. The discussion that followed would reshape military thinking throughout Federation space. Representatives from various worlds asked detailed questions about human training methods, equipment design principles, and tactical doctrines. Would humanity be willing to share these military innovations with Federation forces? Asked the Rigel representative. Dr. Walsh smiled as she answered. Military cooperation is one of the primary benefits of Federation membership. We're prepared to establish exchange programs, joint training initiatives, and technology sharing agreements that benefit all member species. The session concluded with unprecedented requests from alien military commands. The Arcturian Defense Corps asked for cross-training programs to teach their soldiers basic field skills. The Centauri Collective requested consultation on developing backup systems for their neural link networks. The Rigel Defense Force wanted to redesign their powered armor with manual controls and mechanical redundancy. As representatives filed out of the chamber, Alex found himself surrounded by alien officers eager to learn more about human military philosophy. The condescension he had faced just days earlier had been replaced by genuine respect and curiosity. Captain Rodriguez, called Fleet Admiral Korvac as the crowd dispersed. The Federation Military Council would like to discuss establishing a permanent human advisory position within our strategic planning division. Your people have much to teach us about the fundamentals of warfare. Alex shook the Admiral's extended appendage with satisfaction. We'd be honored to contribute to Federation security. Sometimes the old ways really are the best ways. Dr. Walsh approached as the formal session ended, her tablet displaying preliminary agreements for military cooperation programs that would spread human tactical doctrine throughout Federation space. The intelligence reports were right, she said quietly to Alex. They needed to learn that complexity isn't always superior to simplicity. Sometimes primitive gear works better because it's designed to work when everything else fails. Tom Mitchell and Lisa Chun joined them as they prepared to leave the chamber. Around them, alien military officials continued discussing the exercise results with obvious concern for their current military readiness. Think this will change anything? Lisa asked, watching a group of Centauri officers examining a human compass with scientific interest. It already has, Alex replied, observing alien representatives taking notes on human equipment demonstrations throughout the chamber. They've learned that the most advanced military technology is the kind that keeps working when advanced technology fails. The exercise had accomplished something unprecedented in Federation history. It had demonstrated that newer wasn't always better, that sophisticated systems had fundamental vulnerabilities, and that sometimes the most primitive solution was also the most effective one. As humanity took its place among the stars, they brought with them a profound truth that would reshape military thinking throughout the galaxy. Reliability trumped sophistication. Adaptability exceeded specialization, and simple mechanical systems often outperformed the most advanced technology when it mattered most. The Federation would never again underestimate the value of primitive human gear or the soldiers trained to use it effectively. In a galaxy full of technological marvels, humanity had proven that sometimes the oldest tools were still the best tools for getting the job done.